Well, hello, good people, and welcome to History Mystery. And we are trying to figure out if we can solve this puzzle or not. Right here behind me is the red brick house in Waynesboro, Virginia. What we do know about this red brick house was it was built in 1820, and allegedly it was originally built as a schoolhouse. Now, there's some controversy here on whether or not this was the first schoolhouse for Waynesboro, Virginia. And we're trying to piece this mystery together and try and figure it out. And we're going to be taking a look at downtown Waynesboro, what was originally Waynesboro, and talking to our good buddy Kevin at the library in Waynesboro, who may have some interesting news that goes along with it. But this story, it begins here in the cold January day. Let's start from the beginning. Right here where I'm standing is in the middle of what was the Bush farm. The Bushes, who owned all of this property carrying all the way to what is now Hopeman Parkway, was a farm. The original part of Waynesboro was actually over there with the Plum House. The Plum House was built in 1806, as well as some of the other houses and things over there. That was the city of Waynesboro. This was outside of Waynesboro. So Mary and David, so Mary and David Bush, this was their farm. And what they did was they sold part of the property here for the red brick house. They sold it to William Brown, a Revolutionary War soldier. Excuse me, not Revolutionary War. So our beginnings start right here. Right here with Mary and David Bush. This was their farm. They sold the space over here for the red brick house to William Brown, who was a War of 1812 veteran, who built it as a school. Now here's where the controversy comes. Was it actually used as a school? And the significance of this is the oldest school that we have listed is actually listed in 1836. If this was by chance the first school and used as a school, then that changes the history of Augusta County. And dare I say, it's a little bit more knowledge that we have about our ancestors. Next stop, downtown Waynesboro. So I have an interesting theory here. I'm where downtown Waynesboro, or the city of Waynesboro, actually started. Across the street here from me in the snow is the Plum House. The Plum family, prominent family in Waynesboro. The house was built in 1806. There were only 75 structures by the 1830s. This and down through here, there's a couple other houses and buildings that were part of the original part of town. Now, you'll remember, we were over there with what was known as the Bush Farm. And the red brick house goes straight between the building right there, follow the handicap sign, that's the road where the red brick house is. And you may recall me talking about the Plums versus the Hippards. This was the Plum family, and the Plums had brick furnaces on the outskirts of their property here, where they ended up basically kiln bricks for use for their properties and to sell. The Hippards, of course, in the red brick house. Now this is where it gets to be interesting, and I've got to go see my buddy at the library, so we'll continue this story. Oh, one other important fact here. As we look at this house here, you'll notice it's the same federal style as the red brick house. The chimneys on the outside, 3 windows on top, the 2 windows on each side, the door in the middle. Exact same. 1806, 1820. Here's the part that gets interesting, and I think the big tie-in. Under this house, the building itself has flattened logs because it was a log cabin originally. Keep that in mind and remember what I told you right there.
Or something, and they said the oldest school in Augusta County. I'm like, no, it's not. That's totally wrong. But I think with that CLG, I'd like to look into it more.
Definitely. Now, unfortunately, it's not going to be one of those things that's probably going to take time, like the Main Street community designation. But you got to start the ball rolling. So we're looking for this book.
What is that?
We're looking for this book that's going to help us hopefully prove that the red brick house was the schoolhouse. Now, in this book, it's stories of. Okay, it's basically the kid's perspective of going to school in Waynesboro, and it describes in here. And I've got to find it. Oh, I got to go into a book. I have to have a library card, don't I?
Well, this one you can't check out.
I can't check it out.
You gotta look it up.
Okay.
I know we had one you can check out.
Okay. Kevin right here, he knows everything.
Well, I'm trying to learn as much as I can. I think it's right here. There you go. So it's on Bill 1820.
Okay, Bill 1820. All right, which is the year the red brick house was built. I go to an old field school near Waynesboro. The school is an old cabin that was built in a worn out field. We study in a single room. I am learning reading, writing, spelling, and how to do arithmetic. Okay, so if you look at the red brick house, it's brick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now here's the thing. Waynesboro, the original part of Waynesboro, which would be basically kind of downtown, the main street. The red brick house was part of the Bush farm.
Mm-hmm.
David and Mary Bush, who are buried right there by the house. And so you say, okay, Waynesboro, and it says near Waynesboro, right? Okay, back then you only had Tom and Jerry, your left foot and your right foot. So near Waynesboro wouldn't be like 20 miles away that they went to school.
Mm-hmm.
This is a farm. This is close to Waynesboro. And here's the other tie-in. The Plum House, the Plum House, which is 1806, which is a federal-style home. If you go underneath that house, I'm told that it has logs for the floor joists because it was originally a log cabin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they ended up taking keeping the floor joists that were there, that were the flattened logs, and they rebuilt it as the house it is now. So guess what the red brick house has in the original section? Flattened logs.
Wow.
So and I've heard somebody actually say that originally it was actually a log structure, log cabin, and then it was sold to William Brown, who was the Revolutionary War soldier.
Captain. Battle of 1812.
I'm sorry, Battle of 1812.
Yeah.
Yes.
Captain.
There you go, Captain. He bought this, and he ended up having this built as the red brick house. He's buried in Stanton with red bricks on his headstone. Or his headstone is out of red, with granite on top of it. Now, here's the other part of it, too. The schoolmaster was the Presbyterian minister, correct?
I think McHugh. I'm not sure about that.
Okay, so the person we think that was the school teacher.
It's either McHugh or Wilson.
Right. And the Presbyterian cemetery had the Presbyterian church, which is right next, would have been between the red brick house and the cemetery.
And that's linked to the either the Augusta Stone Church or the Tinkling Springs Presbyterian Church.
Okay. Now,
so that's where the Presbyterian church.
The Bush farm, talking to Beverly Bush, I'm going to look at that, get some pictures of it. Okay. Beverly Bush had described that the farm went all the way over to Hopeman Parkway.
Oh.
So when we talk about in a structure,
Wow.
okay, so that was a farm. he said farm in the field, wooden structure.
Close to Waynesboro.
We believe. I don't know how else we can try and put it together, but from proximity of the city, the time period, the floor joists that are logs, because the thing here's the other part of it that I'll say that you look at and say that that's different than the rest of the structure, because the second floor is dimensionally cut lumber as opposed to flattened logs. So you wouldn't have gone through and done flattened logs and then do dimensional lumber up there. You would have done dimensional lumber when you originally did the rest of the framing.
That's awesome. We put that together.
Well, at least that's my theory. Now, okay, change my mind. Okay.
But what else would explain the shorter door opening for 1800s? You know? That explains it.
Yeah, so that's what we believe, and so we think that maybe it was originally a cabin and then rebuilt into the red brick house, and then of course the addition that was done in the 1800s.
Yeah, and I would look at other federal style buildings in that time period and see if they have that low, that low entrance as well, low doorway.
Well, I know.
Or the ones that are actually a cabin.
Yes.
See if that's
that's true, because the Quisenberry house that's down here, it's not that low.
Oh yeah,
1806 which is 14 years before it. And the Plum house, they have the Plum house, it could have been changed multiple times over the years, because they were very affluent. I mean, they had the brick furnaces and everything else. They were kind of more nobility. And this was a school, a meeting place for the Masons and so on. So you wouldn't necessarily do all this opulence. It didn't really become a home until the Hipperts bought it in the 1800s and put the addition on it and had the 7 kids. Okay, that's our theory on what the red brick house was. We believe that it was the first schoolhouse in Augusta County. Changed my mind.
Yes.
All right, so here's the other piece of the puzzle here, and trying to put our hypothesis to use here on the red brick house. You can see these are the original floor joists in the house. Now we had to go through, and because when they put the front porch on here with the concrete, we believe it just kind of helped the wood to rot out. The other side is actually still solid, and the original house was built on here. So we believe that it's conceivable that this would have been a cabin first, or the wooden structure, because we have all of these flattened out logs that were in here. And why would they build the house on flattened logs and then the next floors up with dimensional lumber? We believe that this is dated before the brick structure was put on here. That's our belief, and that's about the best hypothesis that we could come up with, as far as looking at the books from Peter Levine, who was listed as the schoolmaster, understanding that the cemetery for the Presbyterians, which dates back to the 1700s, knowing that this was part of the Bush farm, knowing that this was part of Mary and David Bush, who are buried over there's farm, and that up there on the hill was the town of Waynesboro. So is it a stretch to think that this would have been the wooden structure in the farm field? I don't think so. I think that is now the mystery solved, that the red brick house was the original schoolhouse here in Waynesboro, which would be the oldest schoolhouse in Augusta County. I'm Mark Holmes, and I appreciate you guys watching.